going to get my kids from school. I was thinking about it. When I started freelancing 8 years ago, this was the thing I had in mind. I wanted to make sure that I could be there to take my kids to school, to pick them up from school. No, they were like 2 and a newborn at the time, but I just remember that being so important to me in my childhood that my parents were always there. They could be there for class parties. They were there for carpool drop off and pickup. And that was a huge part of my why when I first started my business in 2015. So now it's 2023, flash forward 8 years, and I have another kid. I have all kids in elementary school, by the way, which was so freaking hard. It was so hard those early years of having kids at home, childcare, part-time childcare, everybody at home, some kids in one school, some in another, all of those different schedules that I had to navigate being self-employed. It was really complicated. And it's like never lost on me on a sick day, sitting in carpool, waiting to pick up my kids, that this was the thing I envisioned for myself. This was the thing that gave me courage to put myself out there, to not know where our health insurance was going to come from, to not know anything about saving for retirement when you're self-employed. I had so many more questions than answered. And yet I could see this vision of my life that I wanted so badly that I started taking steps forward to have that thing. And every step forward that I took, things got clearer and clearer on the exact path to getting that thing. Now, I don't know what your dream life looks like. I highly doubt it looks like sitting in a carpool line. To be fair, that's not my dream life anymore. But when I was at a 9-to-5 job and I wasn't seeing my kids very much every day, that was the thing that I could picture. And over time, that image really changed. It started to look like seeing money in our savings account and not having to live paycheck to paycheck. I could see this desire. And what would our house look like? What would our vacations look like? As things started taking off in the Free Mama and I started getting more successful, I started dreaming bigger about what my dream life could look like. And this thing, it's so interesting that my husband and I had always talked about, we had always talked about traveling around the country in an RV, but for us, it was this like pipe dream. It was like maybe a retirement plan, like a maybe someday we'll actually get to do this thing we want to do. And we found ourselves in 2019, the end of 2019, we were both self-employed, and we had this conversation of like, what is stopping us from doing this now? And we actually bought our first RV like 2 weeks before the world shut down from COVID, which ended up being really great timing. But again, it didn't happen overnight. It started with this vision of this thing that we wanted. We wanted to do it. And then our actions started to align with our commitment to wanting to do that thing. Like we wanted it that badly. We wanted to experience the world. We wanted to make it a reality. And once that seed was planted, we nurtured it. And for us, that looked like taking date nights to go look at different types of RVs and learn about them and doing research and what kind of car would we need, either a truck to pull it or a certain type of vehicle to tow behind. Like, what would that look like? Where would we go? Where were the like must-see places in the United States that we would want to experience? How long could we be gone as a family? What would we need to purchase? And we started thinking about all these things. And over the course of about 4 or 5 months, all of a sudden, we had never been in an RV and now we owned one. And that summer we set out for 8 weeks, and we did a big loop around the country. The trip got cut short because of a family emergency, and fast forward a year, we ended up doing it for another 2 months the next summer, kind of finishing our trip and going to places that we wouldn't have been able to go to the first summer. And it was something that started as a pipe dream. I have so many examples of things that were placed on my heart or were a creative idea I had in my head that just started as a desire. But it has to be that. It has to be your desire. Like, you're not going to take the risk for something that you don't care about deeply. You are not going to get uncomfortable or make yourself vulnerable or find the courage required to get outside of your day-to-day, to get outside of your comfort zone. You're not going to do that if it's not something you truly desire for your life. I think a lot of people decide that they want to start a business because they want to make money, and that's cool. I wanted to make enough money to leave my job so that I could sit in freaking carpool pickup. And now I've done that, and I've done so much more than that, that it's expanded not necessarily my desires, but my belief that those desires are not actually that far out of reach. And when our mindset changes in that way, and we're willing to not just create some number, like I want to make $10,000, or gosh, for some reason on the internet, like $1 million is that magic number, like make $1 million, a 6-figure business, whatever these things are. We hear these messages all the time. And in my experience, anytime I have focused purely on those revenue goals, I am like miserable. I'm so far off track. I'm not connected because I'm not actually motivated by money. And there's a really cool assessment you can take. You can take the DISC assessment, and Tony Robbins has a link. I think you have to pay to get the full report. But what I learned from this is not just like my personality type, which is like the DISC profile, but it also tells you your motivators. Your motivators are what actually makes you tick and want to go do something. If you're familiar with the Enneagram as well, that has to do with your motivators. What really drives you. And financial is one. There are some people who are money motivated. If you're watching this, you should have financial goals because that's going to motivate you to change things in your life. If you're like me though, I'm much more like, I'm freedom motivated. I'm lifestyle motivated. I am impact motivated. And so I love money. Money is a tool. Money is a cool tool. Money bought me this car. Money bought us our RV, our house, like the vacations that we can go on. My business and the style and model of business that I created allows us to go take 2 months off. Now, to be clear, I don't take 2 months off. I just scale back my work volume, but I have the complete capacity and control to do that because of the business model that I created. And so for me, money ends up being a means to an end. Money in and of itself is never my goal. I have to paint a vision of what I desire. What is money going to provide for my family? What is money going to allow me to go do in my community? It's Teacher Appreciation Week while I'm recording this. Like, I'm able to not stress about getting things for my kids' teachers to say thank you because of the business that I built, because of what money does for me. I don't focus on the money. I focus on how money helps me live the life that I want to create for myself. And because I know what I'm motivated by, I know how to set goals in my business and then how to connect them with the revenue that I need to make and the time that I'm willing to work or not work in order to hit my lifestyle goals. And if you don't know how you tick in this way, it's going to feel hard. It's going to feel hard. Now, business is hard anyway. Putting yourself out there, these things are challenging for most people. And when we can connect our desires to the work that we're doing and the reason that we're doing scary, hard things, it makes it so much easier because we can start to actually see all the pieces of our life come together. Now, there's one other key ingredient to all of this that matters, and it matters a lot. And it is your ability to put yourself in scenarios that get you closer to the thing that you want. So there's like a really peculiar thing happening in my life right now, and that is that my very first business coach, who came into my life 2 years before I hired her, I bought a course that she had on the internet. This person is from New Zealand. Her name's Liz Benny. Hello, Liz. There is like 0% chance that our paths were going to cross. Like 0. And they did. And not only did they cross, but the bizarre thing is she has been staying at my house for 2 weeks. She has been literally living with my family, getting to know us on such an intimate level. And the reason that that happened and that we are the dear friends that we are today is that I kept putting myself in situations where that was even possible. So we went from, I saw her on a Facebook ad, I bought a course. 2 years later, I hired her as a business coach. I did the work. I got results. I became a huge case study and testimony for her. Not that that was my goal, but I kept showing up. I kept being not who I felt like all the time, but who I felt like I had the potential to become. Who I desired to be is who I showed up as. And because I chose to do this, it literally changed everything. I was a good friend to her. I stayed loyal to her. I gave her opportunities to come back into my world. She flew literally halfway around the world to come speak at Free Mama Live. And I have so many different examples of this. I got to meet my mentor on the interwebs, Russell Brunson, because I said yes to going to his event. I bought a ticket. I didn't know who was going to watch my kids. I didn't know how I was going to afford to fly there at the time that I did it, but I said yes. And then I spent the next several months between the decision, between the desire and actions that followed, figuring it out and finding solutions. Because I put myself in that room at the event, I was also able to hear about his coaching program and join his world. Because I did that, I got to be in physical same locations as him and his team and meet all of them, and eventually got the opportunity to speak at a virtual event. And because I said yes to that, even though I was scared and I figured it out, I prepared. I had the desire to do it. I was ready and I did a good job. And then because of that, I got asked to speak on stage at Funnel Hacking Live in front of thousands of people. Because of all of these different desires that I had on my heart, I was able to take steps closer to having goals met, to having the lifestyle that I wanted to have. So we hear a lot about manifestation, and we think it's like, well, I'm just going to decide that I want a nice car and it's going to show up the next day. When you can marry the desire of your hearts with a skill set that you can offer the world and contribute to others and be compensated for, and use those things as courage, you can literally do anything that you decide you want to do. Carpool pickup's over. Hi, guys. You got it.
Hi.
Have a seat, Scooby Dooby.
Why are you recording us? Yeah.
Don't worry, I live out in the country, so I'm literally on like a gravel farm road. Just need to worry about my phone flinging off the dashboard. Can connect. Now I don't know where I was, but I'm gonna have a different background.